on today's haircut, obviously we know that we have a little bit of creativity to deal with. So what we're gonna do is, we're gonna make sure we maintain the integrity of what he already has. I wanna just layer this out a little bit to remove some of that weight and be able to add more texture, but essentially we're gonna create like a hybrid of crop and a mullet, right? So maybe give him a very low taper on the side and just go from there. But I wanna make sure I keep essentially what he already has now, but just tucked in a little bit shorter, right? Starting off with making sure I'm saturating the hair all the way throughout. I wanna do my scissor work first and then move on to my clipper work. But as you guys can see, I'm starting off from the crown and combing the hair in the direction that I'm going to be cutting it and also styling as well. So now obviously we wanna make sure we apply the DFS formula when it comes down to the scissor cutting portion of it. So the D obviously stands for dominant growth pattern, which is my main focus from the very beginning. Obviously I wanna analyze the hair and the growth, the natural growth of it, and start sectioning based off of that. So as you can see, the crown is right around here. So I'm gonna start sectioning from this point all the way down to recession, paying attention to the way the hair bends, right? So starting off from here, grabbing a little section by section. And because this is the foundation, I wanna make sure that I make it as solid as possible before I even start cutting. In this corner, there's a slight bend that wants to bounce back. So what I'm going to be doing at this point is readjusting my line, bring it up a little higher, and making sure I'm paying attention to the way the hair lays. So as long as I don't see this bent once I section it out, that means we're on the right track. So I'm just gonna go a little bit higher, bring the hair down, analyze it, and you can already see it's laying a lot better. Repeat the same process on the other side. Taking a section by section, paying attention to that growth pattern all the way through. And you can see the hair is laying super flat, so that way I know I'm on the right direction. Grab the hair, clip it on this side. We're going to create our initial line of the mullet portion of it, and then we're going to be transitioning to the side, which is the area where I'm gonna put a little bit of clipper, right? Ideally, the shape that I wanna create is going to be a very triangular shape in the back. It's gonna be a straight line here in the back, and as I move to the side, we're gonna build the corners for styling purposes. I want the mullet, I want the weight on the sides, so as we're getting to the corners, I'm gonna start tucking in and create that triangular shape that I want to, right? Lay the comb at the widest point of the head, and the moment that you see that the comb is laying completely straight, that is the widest point. Now, notice the difference between that and whenever I bring it down, right? If you look at the comb, it's flaring out. That means I'm creating a triangular shape. If I bring it up higher than the widest point, notice how the comb is facing forward. That means I will be creating a round foundation. But because I want a lot of weight, I'm going to be putting it up right at the widest point. I'll pull straight to me, build that foundation, making sure I'm not going past my second knuckle. Otherwise, I risk the possibility of cutting myself. So at this point, we're gonna grab it, create that straight line all the way through. We're gonna find our corners right here. I'm gonna cut that corner off. And instead of me moving with the roundness of the head, I just wanna completely change my position to the side and find the shortest point, or work my way forward and start pivoting as I'm going, right? But in this case, I'm going to start off from the front and move my way to the back. But notice, because I'm doing clipper work, I'm putting my knuckles directly onto the head. So by the time I put the clipper under it, which will be my highest guard, is the number 4. If I put the 4 right under, I know I'm not gonna create any bulk. So we're gonna make sure we cut. Before even letting go of the hair, I'm gonna grab my next section and follow through. But as I'm going further back, I'm disconnecting my fingers from the head to be able to create that connection between the sides and the back part, right? I'm gonna find my corner, cut right here. You're gonna see your short bit right here, your short bit right here. Just go ahead and cut that all the way through. And if you look at the silhouette that we created, like I said, it's gonna be a triangular silhouette. Fingers directly onto the head. And as I'm moving to that corner, I'm disconnecting my fingers from the actual head. I should be able to find my corner right here. And as you can see, I have my shortest point right at this end, and then my shortest point here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and match those two. So at this point from the back, at this middle part, I'm going to separate that, create my section no thicker than comb's width, find that guide that we created at the very beginning, making sure I'm keeping my section completely parallel to my fingers. I'll go ahead and cut down. And like I said, because I don't want to take away too much from the color, I'm going to start pivoting up. So I'm gonna find my shortest point down here and the guide that I originally created and start cutting. Moving on to the sides, I'm gonna repeat the same process. Find the shortest point, cut down, pivot up, find the shortest point here, and cut down. Repeating the same process all the way through. Find the shortest bit. And now we can start moving from vertical to diagonal forward. You're gonna be able to find the shortest point of the guide that we created at the very beginning, and essentially the shortest point from the bottom, right? So we're just gonna cut that through. Take another section, start cutting, finding my initial guide, which is right here, and I'm just gonna repeat the same process all the way through. And because I'm doing a taper down here, I wanna make sure I'm pivoting my fingers directly onto that taper. Do about one more section. Just a little bit of hair right there. Because I'm cleaning it up behind the ear, I'm just gonna get rid of some of the long hairs that were left behind right behind the ear. So it'll be a little bit easier for me to line it up and clean it up. So we're just gonna repeat the same process on the other side. And you're always gonna refer back to that initial foundation guide that you created at the very beginning. It doesn't matter where you grab the hair, you're gonna be able to find that guide regardless, right? That guide is always gonna be there to lead you whenever you get lost. So I found my short bit right there. I'm going to be cutting down and connecting what you already cut to that shortest point, right? Find that guide, which is right here. I'm gonna start cutting below that. Find my guide, cut below that, find that initial guide, cut all the way through. And because I'm doing clipper work on the side, I'm paying attention to how close my fingers are to the actual head. The way I add texture, obviously texture is one of those things that it could be confusing because people think texture is added with tools, which one is correct. You can add a texture with tools, but the best way to bring out texture is with styling, with proper styling, right? My regular comb as a leverage to keep the hair completely still, and with the razor blade completely parallel to the comb, I'm going to be removing some of that external weight and just removing some of that external weight while creating a little bit of texture as well. And honestly, a lot of people get scared of using the straight blade on the hair for texture, but in reality, you should be more afraid of using it on somebody's skin. And you can already see kind of like the shape that we're trying to create, right? We want to create a lot of weight here in the back, maybe tuck it in slightly a little bit here in the bottom, and flare the corners out, right? The top is pretty much the easiest part, right? When it comes down to the DFS formula and cutting the top portion, we would divide our haircuts into 3 sections, right? Into 3 zones. I already did zones 1 and 2, which will be my foundation, right? This will be zone number 1, zone number 2. To create zone number 3 and 4, all I'm doing is, from the dominant growth pattern, I'm going to be doing a middle parting all the way to the front. Obviously readjusting myself once I get to the front, I'm paying attention to the way the hair is laying, right? Like I said, we have our dominant growth pattern right here, so we're gonna use this point to part it down the middle. Don't focus. I know it's very kind of discouraging whenever you part it down the middle and it just looks uneven. I will say don't even focus on that. Focus on the growth pattern, like I said. And because his dominant growth pattern was asymmetrical, you already know that the middle part is also gonna be asymmetrical, right? You're gonna notice my guide is right under, right? But look at the amount of hair that I'm taking away from the top. That's gonna create more of a softer look. Now look at the difference between me elevating up to my chin and me elevating down to my belly button, right? You find your initial guideline right there, but the amount of hair that you're cutting is a lot less. I'm gonna go ahead and take a square shape here in the back, directly to my chest, find that foundation guide that we created at the beginning, and just cut, right? Find that guide, and then cut. You're gonna see the short little hairs right there. You're gonna be able to follow through all the way. You're gonna find your shortest point right there, and your shortest point right there. All you have to do is just match those 2. Right now, I'm cutting zones 3 and 4. Zone 5 will be created automatically right down the middle by following zones 1 through 4, right? So you can see a little bit of hair standing out from there. There you go. And from the ears forward, I'm gonna start using chin elevation to create more of a round shape. all you have to do is connect those two dots, right? So I'm just gonna slide point cut it, grab another section, and repeat the process all the way to the front. You got your short point right here, short point right here. Follow all the way through from the shortest point to shortest point. So the peak that you will come across will be essentially a lot shorter, but that's fine, because like I said, I want to make sure I maintain as much length in the front as possible. So by the time I style it, I know exactly how much I need to cut all the way through. What I think I'm gonna do in this case is leave the action piece pretty much the length that it is. By point cutting slightly a little bit all the way through. Before I start my clipper cutting, I'm going to apply slightly a little bit of product and roughly blow dry to see what we're dealing with. And it will also allow you to go in and spread the product a lot more even throughout the style. And same thing from the crown all the way forward. I'm going to just style it real quick just to see what we're dealing with before we move on to our clipper work.
Tomb 45, indestructible clay, man. What can I say about it? It's by barbers for barbers. A little bit goes a long way. What I mean by that is you only need about a dime size worth to put in your client's hair. And what's it gonna give it? It's gonna give it a strong, firm hold without the shininess. All right, so if you're one of those people that don't like too much shine, but like a firm hold, and more importantly, you like a product that doesn't drip down to your face if you start sweating, indestructible clay. Top pomade in the market. Get yours.
I'm gonna use my number 3 open, right? What I'm going to be doing right now is grabbing my trimmers and just create a rounded line right around it, right? Let me use this real quick.
Hey guys, while you guys are still here, I got your attention. Get your taxes right. We actually have an all-in-one financial service. We're doing a free.
What I like to create a lot is the reverse fade, right? So you'll pretty much start off at the lowest point here and move your way down. It's no different than fading a beard. So I'm just gonna go ahead and clean that out with that 1.5. From this point, I know that the highest guard is my number 1.5. So we're gonna start off right here. And I'm doing right now no guard open. I'm gonna close it all the way through and start blending that line that's right above it. And I'm gonna go ahead and move on to my 0.5 guard and fade right under that. Just using the corner of the blade, I'm using maybe the last, I'll say 5 teeth to make sure I'm detailing as I'm going. Take my guard off, open it up, and refine right above that. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my 1 guard, start off with it open, and move right below that. Same thing with my number 3 guard right under that foundation. Right now I'm just lining up the C cup. Trimmers? Nikki gave me... And I start off with my guard open all the time. Close it all the way through. Move on to my number 1 guard and move right below that number 1.5 that I just did. And because it's such a tight area, I'm using the corner of the blade a lot. I'll go ahead and close it all the way, move right under that, and grab my 0.5 guard, open, and move right below that. And you're starting to see that that lowest point of the taper is starting to blend more and more and more. I start off with my 0 open and flick that line out. I never hold my shavers like this because it doesn't allow for me to see what I'm cutting, right? I always like using it this way and treating it like a clipper without really pressing it all the way to the line. I'm just flicking it out very lightly.